where wisdom and love intertwine. The man who asks for nothing ultimately gains everything. What do you do when the person you poured your heart into treats you like merely an option? Let that idea marinate for a moment. Welcome to the philosophy of Stoicism. You arrived dedicating your time, energy, and loyalty, confident that if you demonstrated your true worth, she would finally see it. Yet she didn't. She took you for granted, assuming you'd always be there, waiting, available, and ready at her whim. And the worst part? You allowed it. You settled for the bare minimum, clinging to the hope that if you just held on a little longer, things might change. Deep inside, however, you already knew the truth. You were never her priority. You were just another disposable option. Today that stops. Today you reclaim your power. This isn't about revenge or proving anything to her. It's about transforming into a man who no longer seeks validation from someone who never truly valued him. It's about mastering the ultimate art of emotional control. She assumed you'd always be around, that you'd be the safety net she could rely on while exploring other possibilities. She was wrong. The moment you detach, the moment you walk away without a backward glance, is the moment everything shifts. Not only does her world change, but yours transforms as well. In that instant, you become someone she never expected. A man beyond her reach, a man who has conquered himself so completely that her absence no longer wounds him. And that, my friend, is the ultimate redistribution of power. She once thought she could treat you as an option, but soon she'll learn what it means to be cast aside. Not because you're playing games or out to hurt her, but because you finally understand that your time, energy, and attention are priceless. When you withhold these treasures, she will feel the loss, as if a wound has been opened. The silence will gnaw at her, and the indifference will unnerve her. She will question, she will wonder, and she will regret. By then, it won't matter, because by then, you won't even care. She thought you'd always be there. She never once had to wonder whether you'd be around, never doubted if you'd focus on her. No matter how little effort she invested or how often she pushed you aside, you remained, waiting, hoping, always ready to devote your time at a moment's notice. And that was the issue. You never had to earn it, never fought for it. People rarely cherish what's given without effort. To her, you were just one of many choices, not a priority, not a necessity, merely someone she could pick up and set down as she pleased. And you went along with it, not out of weakness, but out of a belief that someday she'd recognize your value. You clung to the idea that if you showed her enough care, she'd awaken to what she had. But she didn't. She continued taking while you kept giving, until one day everything abruptly stopped. You vanished with no warning, no explanation, just gone. And that's when it hit her. For the first time you were absent. For the first time she was forced to face the deafening silence that comes when someone who was always there suddenly isn't. That silence makes her question, reflect, and feel your absence as a heavy, oppressive weight on her chest. Now she feels it, not just mentally, but deep in her soul. She never imagined this day would come, never believed she'd lose you, and now nothing will ever be the same. Number 2, the power of emotional detachment. Now she experiences the shift, the absence, the silence, the undeniable change. She scrolls through her phone, half expecting your name to appear, yet it doesn't. She lingers over old messages, rereading conversations where you once bared your soul, where you once chased her, where you once cared. But now there's nothing, and that nothing suffocates her, because she expected a reaction. She anticipated that you'd reach out, asking what went wrong or fighting for her attention. That's what most men do. They beg, plead, and try to prove their worth as if their value depended on her recognition. But not you. The moment you detach, the moment you cease reacting, you alter the entire game. She once held power over you because you allowed her approval to define your self-worth. Not anymore. Now she's left wondering why you haven't called, why you haven't checked in, why you haven't asked if she's all right. She expects anger, heated arguments, desperate texts, and long-winded explanations, but all she receives is silence. And that silence speaks louder than any words, declaring unequivocally, "You're done." Not because you're playing a game or trying to teach her a lesson, but because you simply have nothing left to give. And that realization unravels her completely, the uncertainty, the unknown, the stark truth that, for the first time, she no longer controls the situation. Number 3. The art of silence, the loudest statement you'll ever make. And then she begins to feel it. At first, she dismisses it, telling herself you're just playing hard to get, that sooner or later you'll crack, sending that late-night text or reaching out for closure. After all, isn't that what most men do? They can't stand silence. They crave answers, seek validation. But as days turn into weeks, there are no calls, no messages, no responses to her posts, no sign that you even care. Suddenly, ignoring you becomes far more challenging, because true, unwavering silence is something she never anticipated. Silence forces her to question, to doubt, and to confront the one thing she never thought she'd have to face: losing you for real. She pores over old messages, replays past conversations in search of clues as to what went wrong, checking your online status, hoping for that familiar green dot, only to find nothing. And that absence drives her to the brink, because when you were present, she took your presence for granted. Now that you're gone, she realizes you were never meant to be controlled by her. Most men err by attempting to explain themselves, to prove their worth, to seek closure. But a true Stoic man doesn't ask for closure. He becomes the closure. He doesn't beg for answers. He moves forward without them. And that's what makes her regret losing you, not because of what you said or did, but because you chose not to react, not to chase, not to prove your worth. You simply disappeared, leaving behind nothing but silence, a silence that resounds more powerfully than any declaration. Number 4. The illusion of power and how you take yours back. She once believed she had you all figured out, that by pulling away, acting aloof, and ignoring your efforts, you'd still be there, waiting, hoping, chasing. She thought she could vanish for days, weeks, even months, and the moment she offered a sliver of attention, you'd rush back as if nothing had happened. For a time, that was true, because you made one critical error. You needed her more than she needed you, or at least that's what she believed. In relationships, power doesn't belong to the one who loves most. It belongs to the one who needs the least. That's why she felt so assured, so in command. She knew she could treat you any way she wished, and you'd still be there. But not anymore. Something shifted. Something within you changed. You finally saw things clearly. You understood that she was never the source of your happiness, never the missing piece that completed you. She was merely a distraction from becoming the man you were destined to be. The moment you stopped waiting, stopped seeking, and stopped reacting, everything shifted. That's when panic set in for her. Now, she questions herself, wondering why you haven't called, reached out, or fought to keep her in your life. The answer is simple. You never needed her, and that truth hits harder than any words could, because now she's the one who's lost control, feeling powerless and chasing something that is forever out of reach. Number 5. Your transformation, the version of you she can't reach. And here, everything changes, not for her, but for you. While she's busy wondering where you went, questioning if she made a mistake, and scrolling through old conversations looking for a sign of your care. You are evolving. No longer trapped by the past or waiting for someone who never truly valued you. You're building yourself up, brick by brick. Step by step, you're forging a version of yourself so powerful and unshakable that the man she once knew no longer exists. You hit the gym not to impress her, but because you've come to respect yourself enough to demand more from your body. You sharpen your mind by feeding it knowledge, discipline, and wisdom, because a strong mind governs everything. You manage your finances not merely to accumulate wealth, but to secure your freedom, since the man who controls his money steers his own future. Most importantly, you master your emotions, no longer reacting or seeking validation, no longer allowing anyone to dictate your worth. And here's the irony. This is when she begins to notice your absence more than ever. She comes to realize you were never weak, never disposable, never just another option. She assumed you'd always be waiting, but now she's the one left waiting, wondering and feeling what you once gave so freely. By the time she understands what she's lost, you won't even care. Number 6. When she tries to come back. The final test. And then, inevitably, she'll try to return. When she does, you'll recognize it immediately. It won't be marked by a grand confession, a heartfelt apology, or a sudden epiphany about how amazing you were. It'll be subtle. A casual, "Hey, how have you been?" A like on an old photo, or an unexpected reaction to one of your stories. Perhaps she won't even reach out directly. Maybe she'll simply start appearing in places she knows you frequent, hoping to catch your eye. But do not be fooled. This isn't about love, regret, or finally acknowledging your worth. It's a test. She doesn't miss you. She misses the control. She needs to know if she still holds sway over you, if she can still draw you back into her orbit, if she can still make you chase. And most men, when confronted with this test, falter. They see her name flash on the screen, and suddenly all reason vanishes. They convince themselves that maybe she's changed, that she now realizes what she lost, so they dive right back into the cycle. The moment you engage, respond, or grant her that sliver of validation, she wins. You were never truly gone, and once she senses she still has you, the game resets. She pulls away again, vanishing once more, leaving you exactly where you started. But not this time. You have outgrown the game. You don't need her messages, her breadcrumbs, or her feeble attempts to reconnect. You don't need to prove anything because you simply don't need her. So when she tests you, you don't react, you don't respond, and you certainly don't acknowledge her, not out of spite, but because you no longer care. And that, in turn, drives her absolutely insane. Number 7. The ultimate victory, when you no longer care, and then comes the true victory, when you no longer care. This isn't about her regretting you, wondering about you, or second-guessing her choices. The real triumph is that you've transcended the need to prove anything, to her or to anyone. You no longer waste energy replaying the past, questioning what went wrong, or wondering if she ever really cared, because none of that matters now. What matters is that you are free, free from the burden of seeking her validation, free from the relentless cycle of hoping she'll acknowledge your worth, free from the emotional chains that once kept you captive. When you reach that state of detachment, when her name, her face, or even her absence fails to elicit any reaction from you, you know you've won. Because the true opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And now, that's exactly what she has become to you. Reflect on the time you wasted thinking about her, the energy you squandered trying to keep her, the space she occupied in your mind. Now she is nothing more than a shadow of your past, a lesson, a closed chapter. Number 8. The final truth. The man who needs nothing gains everything. Finally, the undeniable truth. The man who needs nothing gains everything. She once believed you'd always be there, that you could be cast aside while she explored other options, like a forgotten book on a shelf, waiting to be picked up at her leisure. She was convinced that despite overlooking you and taking you for granted, you'd always be waiting, always hoping. But she was mistaken. One day, you simply stopped. You didn't argue, beg, or try to prove yourself. You just vanished. And suddenly, she became the one left, searching through old messages, replaying memories, wondering if she'd made a terrible mistake. Now, she feels the absence of something she desperately desires. But by the time she comes to realize what she's lost, it won't matter, because the man she once knew no longer exists. You have evolved. You've constructed yourself into something greater. You've outgrown the need for validation, approval, or revenge. Now your focus isn't on proving your worth to her, it's on becoming your own worth. And that is the ultimate shift. She once believed she was the prize, the one calling the shots, the one in control. But the truth is, you were always the prize. She just failed to see it. And now she never will, because the man who needs nothing gains everything. Conclusion. If this message resonated deeply, it means you're awakening to your true self, not an option, not a backup plan, but a man of genuine value. From this moment on, carry yourself with that realization. No more chasing, no more proving, no more waiting for someone else to acknowledge your worth. In truth, you weren't losing her, she was losing you. Now you move differently. You walk with purpose, build with discipline, and master yourself so thoroughly that no one, not her, not anyone, can ever shake your foundation again. If you're ready to step into that power, comment below with, "I own my power." Thank you for watching Stoic Heartbeat. If this message struck a chord, don't stop here. Subscribe, explore more of our content, and let's continue this stoic journey together. Life isn't about the chase. It's about living fully and allowing attraction to flow naturally. We'd love to hear your thoughts or suggestions for future topics, so drop a comment below. Let's build a community philosophy and peace together. See you in the next video.